Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel, Kim, and Chris. On today's US Open quarterfinals catch up, brought to you by Fungiball.
Fritz and Tiafoe guarantee a US men's singles finalist,
Draper channels Murray to make it to the final four.
and Jessica Pegula makes her first semi after sending Iga Swiatek packing.
Chris, today is the 5th of September, and we are here to catch up on the quarterfinals of the US Open at Tennis Weekly HQ. What a fantastic few days it has been, particularly if you are a British or American fan. Jack Draper is into the semi-finals without dropping a set after a regulation 3-set win against Alex de Minaur. He will now go on to face Jannik Sinner. Across the pond as well, the quarters were dominated by US success as Fritz and Tiafoe set up an all-American semi-final clash at Flushing for the first time in the men's draw since 2005. Jessica Pegula also breaking into new ground, a slam semi-final after upsetting Iga Swiatek. And there was also wins for Emma Navarro, who continued to march on and will next face Aryna Sabalenka. Karolina Muchova also through. Chris, lots and lots to discuss as usual. And as British fans, British tennis fans, I know we've spoken about the changing of the guard a lot when it comes to British tennis and the male section, but I wasn't expecting it to happen just this quickly.
Wow, I mean, we are making a big deal of the British success, but the Americans do have four players. The
I
half
know.
of the semi-finalists are American. So we're holding on to our, we don't normally get more than one, but we get one every now and again. We've had Cam Norrie, we've had Carl Edmund, but it
Mm.
does feel like this was a bit of a long time coming for Jack, even though he is so young, because he's had such good form, especially when we saw him last year at UTS. He was wiping the floor with top 10 players, a different format, but it has taken the year for him to really make the
I know.
breakthrough.
This is his first proper season, and we're going to be delving into the Jack Draper success in the second half. We're going to be talking as well about Iga Swiatek being upset by Jessica Pegula. Looking forward to the semi-finals with our previews and predictions. But let's start with the quarterfinals from day 9. It was a bit of a riot for the Americans, really, because it was a great day to be an American in the singles draws. Lots and lots of victories. Great day also to be an American in the mixed doubles as well, which we will get onto. But let's talk about those men's quarterfinals. Taylor Fritz and Francis Tiafoe setting up a semi-final. First time that has happened, all American semi-final in 16 years. Wow. First of all, that feels too long. We're going to get onto that in a sec. But let's first talk about Taylor Fritz, Alexander Zverev. 4 sets victory to Fritz. 7-6, 3-6, 6-4, 7-6. Chris, what did you make of this? Because these guys, they have history. They have had beef in the past. Morgan Riddle included at Wimbledon. How did
Yes.
this match go?
Well, you kind of stolen what I was going to say there, Joel. I was going to say all eyes were on Morgan Riddle after the
Mm,
Wimbledon apology and the backlash that happened there about doing it for the girls. Well, he
doing it
did
for the
it for the
girls,
girls
yeah.
again. He really did. I think he's got some sort of a hold over Zverev now. I think the scar tissue from
Mm.
the Wimbledon match seemed to be very much living on in Zverev's mind, but also for Fritz, I think if he had have lost that Wimbledon match, he wouldn't have gone into this as confident. He really felt like he was never going to lose this match, even in those moments where he did face break points or he wasn't taking his chances. It felt like he was the aggressor more often than not. And I think that's what I really liked about it is that it was a Taylor Fritz that felt like he wasn't going to go away. He felt like he was the more established player
Mm.
on the day. Whereas previously at quarterfinal stages, he's had Nadal, he's had in later stages of slams, Djokovic. He's always kind of been the underdog that never really got going or never really delivered. And this was the opposite story today because now he's made his first semi.
Yeah, and I think he's just such a consistent performer, and he sort of like to say that consistency I think was lacking a little bit from Zverev. And I liked how you talked about Brits in this match. It felt like naturally he was the aggressor. He was the one playing the more aggressive tennis. And I think there's an argument to say with Zverev. And one of the main reasons he does come unstuck, particularly towards the business end of Grand Slams, is not just the nerves of the big matchup, but
Mm.
is there an argument to say he's too passive from the baseline as well?
Yeah, he is too passive on some of those big points. And I think the thing that's quite surprising, I've just had a quick look at the numbers, is that in terms of the overall winners, there were more winners from
Mm.
Zverev. He only actually hit two more aces than
Wow.
Fritz. But unforced errors wise, the difference was he had a positive differential of 10. So Zverev had better numbers. He also had better aces, lower double faults. But I think that's what's really kind of important here is that he's not great in those big moments. He's really suffered at the slams this year where he hasn't been able to get over
Mm.
the line from winning positions because you talk about it, he's not great from the mental side of the game. And that's why he isn't a slam champion right now. That's why he didn't beat Dominic Thiem. He served for that match in 2020, served for a Grand Slam title. And it felt like a bit similar when you look at it that he is the maybe man because he had better numbers. He actually almost won as many points as Fritz. He just didn't win the points that mattered. And that's happened so much in his career so far.
Is there a worry from Zverev's perspective that he's just going to permanently be the maybe man? Because I feel like we keep talking about him coming into Grand Slams. He's looking in good form. I mean, his ranking is up there. You know, he's certainly one of the more in terms of his season, it's better than a lot of the people around him. But at the same time, he's not making hay when it comes to those Grand Slam opportunities, and he's still on zero. He's still yet to break his duck. Do you think there's a worry that he's going to end up kind of slamless in his career, or are we not at those stations just yet?
I don't think it's going to get easier if he is in those positions in finals
Mm,
again, because it will be more and more of an issue. A bit like Rublev in his quarterfinal, trying to break that duck. I think
yeah.
it's a similar issue. The more you have those opportunities, the more you really want to make sure that you convert them. And the more you want it, the harder it is to convert. So it's not going to get easier. And I think it really is kind of crazy when I think that I saw him age 17 at Wimbledon thinking, wow, he's going to be the new world number one. He's going to take over everything. And he said, there's being predicted to do that. And then there's actually doing it. And he didn't count his chickens at that time. And it's kind of mad to me, given the game that he had, that he hasn't taken those opportunities. And I think, as you've said, he does back off. The second serve for someone who is as tall as he is a concern. He does sometimes
Mm.
put in a 133-mile-an-hour second serve because he gets less tense doing a hard serve like that than he does trying to do a kicker. He knows he might miss it. So it's a very strange one because he should have everything. He should have the world at his sort of fingertips, given the game he has. He moves so well now as well. The physicality, you can see his arms. I mean, he's stronger than ever, but not quite getting it done. So, I mean, it's polar
Mm.
opposites to Fritz, who looks almost like he could just be your regular sort of guy physically, but he obviously isn't. He's moving better than ever as well. So, um, for Zverev, I think you do have to think that's something he'll want to close quickly and to come as close as he has done this year. And with this opportunity, I mean, Tiafoe in a semi-final to make another final, that's a good draw for
I know.
anybody,
Yeah. Do you think
especially
he
for
was
Taylor
feel? Do you
Fritz.
think he was feeling it from that perspective? I mean, he said he played terrible. He wasn't happy, and he said candidly he didn't deserve to go through. Do you think that was playing on his mind? The fact that it felt like, probably to Fritz as well, that this is an absolute golden opportunity to go to another Grand Slam final, from Zverev's perspective, and possibly go and win your first one.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think you don't have to play that well to win a slam. We've
Mm.
seen that before, the team match. Who deserved that one? We've talked about it now,
No
but
one.
exactly. And there are some matches, Grand Slam matches, where they aren't always the best matches, but you get the win. For example, Coco last year in the final, I think she played a solid match. Sabalenka went off the boil. Coco took the opportunity.
Yeah,
And so I think saying you don't
true.
deserve it might just be because you didn't win the big points. But when you look at the numbers, um, I mean, Fritz had 13 break points. And so you have to think it's more about the serving and more
Mm.
about the big points than it is not deserving it. Because although Fritz was the player who hit more of the highlights, I would say, there were still moments of brilliance from Zverev. It was really close, but losing sort of those two tie break sets, that is quite a strange one when you
Mm.
think about the fact that they are both great servers and Zverev really should be pushing him to more than 2 and 3 in those tiebreak
I
sets.
I agree, and I think you looked at Fritz's numbers as well. He was what I think 60% on first serves through the match, so it's quite a lot of second serves there for Zverev to attack, and it
And
felt like he
only
was.
four opportunities to
Yeah,
break.
I know. And you felt like he was just sort of playing it safe and getting back into making sure he was getting into the rally. Whereas, as I say, maybe he needed to be more aggressive and be on and play more front foot tennis than he did, because I certainly think that is what ended up meaning Taylor Fritz gets his first ever Grand Slam semi final. And Chris, as you said, he's going to play France's Tiafoe All American Clash. Do you want to have
Yes.
I guess we've already said this a million times already. 16 years since the last All-American male, Andy Murray voice here, male clash in the semi-final at the US Open. And can you tell me any of those players? Any of those players in that last dust up,
Wait,
All-American dust up?
so it's the first time since 2005.
Mm,
So that's got to be 19 years. Is that right? Must be.
I think it was. Hang on. Have I got my stats mixed up?
Well, let's go with it. I think that there was an All-American semi-final in 2005 is what I've read. Um, but I'm not sure who that was between. It wouldn't have been Roddick. Maybe the last semi-finalist was Andy Roddick, was it?
It was
Tell
Andre
me.
Agassi and Robbie Ginepri, who played in the US Open semi-final all those years ago in 2005. Maybe I did get my maths wrong. Maybe it
No, it's the
is
first. It's 16 years since an American man has been in the final, I believe.
right.
We'll give you that,
Okay.
Joel.
Right. Okay. There we go. There we go. So,
We cleared it
apologies,
up.
listeners.
So
Yes.
it was 2005, and you're telling me it's Agassi and Ginepri.
Agassi and Ginepri. Tiafoe Fritz. Tiafoe came through against Grigor Dimitrov 4 sets. Sadly, this one ended in a retirement for Grigor Dimitrov. Chris, what was the story of this match with Tiafoe and Dimitrov? Was this just a case of Dimitrov's body, running out of him, or was just Tiafoe, was he deserved of the victory?
It was probably the least competent performance that we've seen from either of these players. Um, I'm I think TFO is probably very pleased that he managed to keep the match going as long as he did, and he was able to get over the line. But I mean, Dimitrov did hit more winners, but neither of them hit more winners than unforced errors. So this was not clean tennis. It was not pretty. But as we've talked about previously, it doesn't have to be that pretty. It was also pretty cagey from TFO in terms of having lots of opportunities, not necessarily taking them all. But I mean, there's a lot on the line. It's
Yeah.
such a big opportunity, especially when you know your fellow countryman has made it. There's an opportunity to make history. I think, as you said, this will be the fourth time there's been an All-American semi-final this century, which is very exciting. So, I mean, it's one of those matches where neither of them were able to play that well. Maybe the fact that Dimitrov was struggling physically meant the level wasn't
Mm,
particularly high from either of them, because obviously, if someone's playing lights out, you have to up your game. And if someone isn't quite getting there, then you can get dragged into one of those matches where you do make the errors. And it's almost to me to you when it comes to trying to get over the line.
yeah. And looking ahead to that TFO Fritz matchup, what do you think both of them will be thinking going into it? Because as I say, kind of Fritz has never been in this situation before.
Mm.
TFO has. Is that going to be a factor?
It's hard to know because I think it will definitely help having had the experience at this level. I'm not sure that TFO's always felt like he's played his best tennis in those big moments that he's had.
Mm,
Um, I think for him, he's sometimes fallen on the wrong side of being content with not winning, not winning the whole thing. That semi-final result, the first semi-final he made, was such a big deal. And we still think about it now as though got him into the top 10, got him into that really, really high sort of level and right up there at the top of the game. But then I guess we kind of just we don't always expect him to win it. And I think he really has to start believing that he
mm,
can win it. Whereas I think that Fritz thinks he can. And I think that's probably a difference in mentality, is that Fritz has the bit between his teeth. He's taken out the highest seed in this half of the draw. And I think he really thinks he can do it. I mean, it's a great draw that he's
yeah.
got now. Um, Still think the favorite might be from a different part of the draw, but we'll talk about that in the second half. It is such a shame though for the semi-final to end that way, because maybe that will also affect the way that
Mm.
TFO will be able to play. Because I mean, Dimitrov's retired in the last two slams that he's played now. Joel, is physicality becoming an issue?
I sadly I think so, which is it's like a double shame because of how well he is playing at the
The
moment. I don't think
resurgence.
it's his resurgence. I don't think the tennis is holding him back. If anything, it's taking him to new heights or to nearly new heights. And you know, similar to Zverev thinking, this might have been a perfect opportunity to break my Grand Slam duck. For Grigor Dimitrov, he would probably have gone into this thinking this was a perfect opportunity to reach a Grand Slam final for the first time.
Yeah.
So it just shows, I think, the sort of the jeopardy involved with these matchups, and it's a shame, I think, with Dimitrov how it ended because up to this point, yeah, he was in a fight. He'd we just won't know now. I think if he was fully fit, whether, as I say, he could have gone deeper.
Yeah, and that is such a shame because he's been playing such good tennis and he felt like he was due, a deep run at a major. He said he'd take a quarterfinal any day, given the fact that he didn't have great form coming in. Obviously, he had the injury at Wimbledon that made, well, such a big shame. He's playing well there. He had to retire against Medvedev. So, very unfortunate for him. But, you know, when it comes down to it, age does creep up on you and it creeps up on people at different times. He's talked.
Creeps up on everyone.
It
It creeps
does,
up on
except,
everyone.
well, even Novak Djokovic this
Even
year,
Novak Djokovic, yeah.
he's human.
So,
We found out, didn't we?
but yeah, I mean, Fritz Tiafoe semi-final. I don't think Tiafoe will want to look at the head-to-head because it is 6-1 in favor of Fritz. All their
Wow.
matches have been on hard courts as well, and Tiafoe's only victory was their first matchup all the way back in 2016. So he's going to have to do, it feels, something pretty special to stop that rot potentially.
He is. I mean, that's quite a long time ago. So
Mm.
you just have
But
to
I will
hope.
I will
Yes.
say though, TFO in New York, I think that's the
It's his
unknown
court. He
factor.
needs to
It's
tell Taylor
his
Fritz it's
court.
his court.
Exactly. So yeah, we'll see. But I mean, Fritz has the Chipotle stand, so he it's
He
it's it's
does.
it's uh it's a bit of
Still,
both.
one of the funniest things in press when he was annoyed with Rinderneck and then he was asked about what he eats, what's his favorite
Yes.
sweet treat on site, and he said Chipotle, and I'm like, wait, what?
Yes.
But obviously, in his brand deal, he can only say that. I think when it comes to food, so he can talk about Hugo Boss and
Yeah.
Chipotle.
So yeah, it was a very good day for the Americans because they had two players go through in the men's draw to the semi-finals. And Chris, in the mixed doubles, Donald Young, another
Yes,
American, in his final tournament, has made it through to the mixed doubles final.
I mean it's unbelievable the American success. You have to feel like, especially amongst the men on that day, so many great results were happening. And Donald Young, I
Mm.
mean, remember when he burst onto the scene, world number one, everyone thought he was like a
Yes.
yeah, I
Yes.
was going to take it over. We talked about Zverev, but at 15 he was winning. I think it was
Mm.
like the junior Grand Slams.
Yeah.
Then it never really materialized for
Reminds me of like
him.
Luke Saville for Australia, just a player who was so good in juniors, but didn't quite go
Yeah,
according to plan in the seniors.
it never quite happened. I mean, Tiafoe, Townsend, and Christopher Eubanks have talked about the impact that he had on them doing
Mm.
so well so young. But I mean, that's 20 years ago, when he first had that big burst on the scene. He had some pretty good results, Joel. Don't want to bring it up, but he did take out Andy Murray at Indian Wells in
He
2011.
has look, he has had some good results, and I think it's a shame that up to this point he has not been a tour level champion in the singles or the doubles. So maybe this is his opportunity
Wouldn't
to
that
do
be
that.
fun? Mixed doubles has these fun
Mm.
results, right, Joel? The rule book and form book are out the
Yeah,
window.
yeah. I mean, Young and Townsend, they've got Irani and Vavasori in the final, but as you
Oof.
say, I feel like
Can he
it's
handle the serve?
can
The Irani
he handle
serve?
the spin?
Yeah.
Yes.
Goodness.
Um,
I mean, we'll see how that one goes. But I mean, success for Taylor in both competitions because she's also in the semifinals with Sinyakova, Wimbledon winner
mm.
herself. And then, I mean, like Emma Navarro is also winning. So everyone
It's just
with an
great
American
time
flag is
to be
winning.
American. Great time to be American. We're going to be talking about those ladies' quarterfinals from day 9 in a second, but we're going to hear a quick word from our sponsors, Fungiball, first of all.
Our US Open coverage is brought to you by Fungiball.
Fungiball is a play to earn fantasy tennis game that seamlessly combines the thrill of professional tennis with the transformative power of blockchain technology.
allowing tennis fans to collect, trade, and compete with digital cards representing professional tennis players.
Each card is unique, adding a layer of excitement and interaction for both fans and players.
Fungiball users have the opportunity to craft unique game avatars to enhance their avatar's proficiency. Users can engage in weekly online tournaments, mirroring the professional tennis schedule.
They can also utilize the Fungiball marketplace to collect and trade digital cards, featuring their preferred men's and women's players.
Fungiball already has 250 tennis players and counting that are officially licensed on the platform through their collaboration with the Professional Tennis Players Association, including
Alexander Zverev,
Jessica Pegula,
Felix Auger-Aliassime,
and a mystery top 5 tennis player is joining the platform this US Open, with more players to be announced each week.
As the on-court performances and results of real-life players fluctuate throughout the tour season, the skills, ratings, value, and rarity of their corresponding Fungiball NFTs also shift.
So what are you waiting for? Join the revolution in tennis gaming. Go to www.fungiball.io to sign up now. The link is in the description.
Cryptocurrencies and NFTs are unregulated in some markets, including the UK. NFT profits may be subject to taxation, such as capital gains tax. The value of investments is variable and can go up as well as down. Additional fees may apply.
Okay, let's talk, Chris, about the ladies' quarterfinals from day 9. Badosa, Navarro, Zheng, Sabalenka, and yeah, which one should we start with? Let's continue the American hype train. Let's start with Navarro, Badosa.
Yes.
Navarro 6-2, 7-5. But we've got to talk about the second set particularly. Badosa was 5-1 up, was looking like she was easily going to be taking it to a third set with all the momentum. And Navarro came back and won 7-5. Yeah, complete. I don't want to say choke. I don't want to say meltdown, but something just happened. I don't know what it was. Yeah. Badosa just, it felt like she switched off maybe mentally, because I don't think Navarro necessarily raised her level. But yeah, what did you make of that second set?
I mean, neither played well. Really not well at all. But I mean, 35 unforced errors and just 10 winners for Badosa in that match. A lot of them coming in the second set, and a lot of them coming, when it rains, it pours. But I feel like we're not
4 points in the last 6 games is what Badosa won.
It is a meltdown, unfortunately. She combusted, self-combusted there. And it's a very, very big thing on the line, especially given the fact that with the injuries that she's had, she's not overcome, but she's managing much better now. She's getting herself into great situations again. But we have seen this even when she was sort of physically at her sort of peak, where she got absolutely hit off the court by, I think, in a quarterfinal, at the Australian Open, potentially, where it could have been the 4th round. Maybe it was the 4th round against Madison Keys. She doesn't always bring her best game the later she gets into these Grand Slams. She's not a fixture, even when she was at world number 2. She never made a semi-final.
Yeah,
so
very true.
I think that's one of those situations where trying to get over that line and get that result, it is tricky. Taylor Fritz found it difficult too. He did manage to do it, but it's such a big accolade.
Well, she looked like she just wanted to get off the court, because I don't know if you saw in the match point, Navarro hit a drop shot and it looked like Badosa could have got to it, but she sort of just stopped running and the match was over. Handshake.
Yeah, it was very awkward.
It was
very awkward.
Odd.
And you do think maybe something was going on that we didn't know about potentially, because it almost felt like, I'm not saying in any way that she would have a match fix, but it's almost like the score had to be 5-1, then she had to not win another game. You couldn't have predicted that the form book would have gone that way. It was so strange. And very, very hard to watch. But a lot of things I've seen has been like amazing performance from Navarro. And I'd say Navarro is beating the players in front of her, but Coco hit 60 unforced errors, 35 on unforced errors from Badosa. She's getting help. And I think we should acknowledge the fact that you can only beat the player in front of you, but the players are sometimes beating themselves.
Navarro's having an incredible season. First Grand Slam semi-final. She's up to 8 in the live rankings, career high ranking. Yeah, do you? What is it about her game that is taking her to these levels? It's not all just, her players aren't performing. Is that partly due to the brand of tennis that Navarro is bringing to the court?
Yeah, I mean, she's a great tennis player. She's reached the quarterfinals at Wimbledon. She played a lot better there, I have to say, when she took out Coco Gauff. And um, I saw some great tennis from her in those matches. Maybe the conditions aren't as good for her here, but I mean, lots of very top pundits are singing her praises. I remember you asked Patrick Mouratoglou who was going to be the next new female slam winner, and he could still be on for a great result here because Krejcikova won Wimbledon. She'd already was a slam winner. So, I mean, maybe he saw the future, Patrick. He's a very wise man. And I didn't know he paid that much attention to women's tennis, but clearly he's watching Emma Navarro. So,
I did enjoy. I saw a stat on social media that said the first American billionaire's daughter into the semi-final. Is it Jessica Pegula? No, it's not. It's Emma Navarro. So JPEG just getting beaten to
billionaire
the
versus
post.
Billionaire it could be in the final. I believe they're on opposite halves. But
that would be great.
It would be great. But still, I mean, she got the job done. I think she's going to get some more stern tests as she goes through, for sure.
Yes. I mean, it doesn't feel like she's going to get the gift of a Sabalenka off day in the semi-finals. I mean, Sabalenka came through Qinwen Zheng. This was a repeat of the Australian Open final. And Chris, this was even more one-sided in favor of Sabalenka. 6-1, 6-2. Sabalenka at this stage, I feel like she's just very, very consistent. You know what you're going to get. And she really is a force to be reckoned with going into the deep end of the US Open. Were you expecting this to be a little bit closer than it was, given Zheng's performances at the Olympics, for example?
She's been playing well. The Donna Vekic match was brilliant. I really thought that was a great match, and the level was good. I thought she'd found her rhythm again, but it hasn't really materialized in those big matches. I think she was, it's very similar in the way that she was sort of dismantled in that Australian Open final. So could be a case that she doesn't like to be out hit, or she isn't used to playing against someone who, does hit the ball as hard as she does. Sabalenka is really thumping it out there. I've actually seen that she hits topspin forehands quicker than Carlos Alcaraz, was one of the stats that I saw this week. So she really is thumping the ball in. Qinwen Zheng is a big take back. She likes to have some time on the ball. So it could just be one of those, like, we talk about like bogey women or bogey men when you play against them. It could just be a really bad head-to-head, but she wasn't happy with how she played.
And Roger Federer was in the crowd as well. And Sabalenka said, I saw him there. I saw him on the big screen, and I was like, okay, I have to play my best tennis so he enjoys it. So maybe she was rising to the challenge a little bit of having one of the goats in the crowd.
Well, you don't want him to leave during your match, do you? And I think she said that he was probably there for maybe the Tiafoe match. So she wanted to make sure that he stayed and put on a great performance. So credit where credit's due. The numbers were a lot better. She completely outplayed, the Olympic champion, which is, it's very impressive. And on the form book right now, you'd have to say that was a pretty standout win in terms of sending sort of waves through the locker room, because, she just was hitting winners for fun at times. And again, did get some help, but hopefully the matchups we'll get later in the tournament will live up to the hype, because we are slightly missing on the women's side. Obviously, we had the Vekic Qinwen Zheng match, but I would like a really sort of epic day match to sink our teeth into, because we haven't had that, and we didn't have that today either.
It's very true, actually. It's all been a
lot of errors.
We're sort of waiting still for like a sort of a big bang moment later in the rounds. It could come in the semifinals, because it is Sabalenka Navarro. And Chris, the interesting thing here is that Navarro defeated Sabalenka on hard court earlier this year in Indian Wells in 3 sets. Sabalenka has defeated Navarro since then. They're 1-1 in their head-to-head. That was at the French Open. But the fact that Navarro has beaten Sabalenka on a hard court, will that give her confidence that she could spring an upset?
Of course. It can't not.
Home crowd as well?
On home soil. That was where she got her win as well at Indian Wells. That was probably the time when we all did take note of Emma Navarro, because Sabalenka was coming off the AO win. She was playing great tennis again. So that was when Navarro already announced herself, I think, probably to the American audience. And now she's announcing herself in a much bigger stage. She will be the underdog. I think that might help her. But ultimately, I think if Sabalenka plays her best level, it is far above Emma Navarro, I would say.
Ooh, okay. Well, you heard it here first. We shall see. But we're going to take a quick break now. Do join us, though, in the second half, where we will be taking a look at all the quarterfinals action from day 10 in New York City. So do not go anywhere. Welcome back to the Tennis Weekly podcast and our US Open quarterfinals catch up brought to you by Fungiball. And we're going to move on now to the quarterfinals action from day 10. And Chris, we must start with Jack Draper through to a semi-final at a Grand Slam for the very first time, just breaking new ground so casually this season. And he's still not dropped a set. Straight sets against Alex de Minaur, 6-3, 7-5, 6-2. Yeah, talk to me about this match and talk to me about Jack Draper, because into a semi-final, as I say, Andy Murray, passing of the guard, passing of the baton, changing of the guard. I'm getting my metaphors mixed up because I'm so excited. Yeah, the hype is real.
The hype is real. He's such a big talent, and I think he's also such a nice guy. And I think it's all come together this season. As you said right at the start, it is his first full season, and I think definitely adapting to life on tour and be able to peak at the right moments is something that he is learning. And I think sometimes it's a bit easier when you don't have the pressure of a Wimbledon. Obviously, Andy Murray had his big breakthrough here in 2012. For all of our listeners who don't know, Joel was there. Joel was the lucky charm. I'm hoping he's going to get a flight to watch Jack Draper in the semi-finals, but I'm not sure he can be tempted this time. But I mean, such a great result. He's playing great tennis, but you do have to have a little moment for Alex de Minaur here, because he did take 6 weeks out after that horrible hip injury where he almost hurt it on court. He played just one doubles match in the lead up, and that was with Popperin at the Olympics, and he could not really moved to his left side on the backhand. And Jack played a very assured match. He really did exploit that, particularly with the lefty forehand, dragging de Minaur out wide. But even that tactical shift that Jack made just shows that mentally he's so rock solid, as well as his game being on top form.
Yeah, and I think it's so exciting to see. I mean, Alex de Minaur is such a fierce competitor, and yeah, maybe he was hampered a little bit by injuries, but as a British fan, I guess, yeah, I'm still very, very excited. And just talking about Draper and this success that he has had in the Grand Slam arena this season, getting to a quarterfinal and now a semi-final here. Were you expecting it to come this season? You spoke about finding your feet on tour, this being his first full season. Is it still surprising, or is the level of Draper and his talent, is it just coming to the fore naturally, and we expect to see him in these sorts of environments?
Well, I was blown away by his level when we saw him in London last year. I did predict him to make the semis in Australia. I really did think that he would immediately push on, having had such a big lift at the end of the season. Obviously, he's now won his first title, and big breakthroughs, they don't all happen like Emma Raducanu. They don't all happen when you're a teenager, when you were in your first year on the tour.
No.
And I think there's a lot of pressures to adapt to, especially because the British #1 mantle suddenly was upon him at Wimbledon. So the fact that he steadied the ship and he's kind of made it to the semi-finals here, I don't think many of us were thinking he would make it. He was in Alcaraz's quarter of the draw, which would be a very
making
tough...
the most of it.
He is making the most of it. So I think a good draw and playing the level that we know Jack can play at, he looks so confident. And I think confidence is the thing that when you hit as big as he does, you have to have it. Otherwise, you start missing. So is it a surprise? I'm not surprised by Jack's level, but I think the fact that he's done it having maybe had a little bit of a bubbling under the surface, slowly building season. Yeah, I didn't think that it would happen this US Open.
And what do you think's the one thing that has got him through to the semi-finals? As I say, not dropped a set. He's played up against some really informed players like Thomas Machak in the quarters. de Minaur's had a stellar season. Yes, I know it's been derailed a little bit by injury, but what would you say has been the backbone to his success in New York City. And don't tell me Carlos Alcaraz going out
No,
going out so early on.
I think, I mean, I always say this, it is about whether you believe that you can do it. And I think the confidence you get from getting off to a good start at a slam. He's had a few slams this year where he hasn't got off to the best of starts. You know, the French Open springs to mind, a match that he probably should have won. And if you are playing well and you are feeling confident on the surface, it's a quick surface, helps the serve. To be honest, I do think it's a confidence game with him. I think he really does believe. If you watch him play, and I watched his last match, he is fully dialed in. His eyes are almost wider. He's seeing the ball almost like a football. And I think that's something where when you're dialed in and you're as focused as he is, it's almost like he believes he can win this title. And if you don't believe it, you're not going to do it. And we talked about that with Tiafoe.
And just talking about the changing of the guard, I feel like this is a new hot term in British tennis, because as you say, Andy Murray retired. He has retired. He had his final Grand Slam at Wimbledon. To think we've gone from that to another Brit into a semi-final and announcing himself on the Grand Slam stage, literally in the next major. It's been so, I want to say, seamless and almost like it was planned. Are you kind of surprised or that, is it just, how have we got to this point where, we're not, there's no delay or there's been no gap. It's just been like, yeah, Murray's retired. Draper's ready to take it on.
It's giving a bit of the Henman Murray crossover that we had as well, where they were both playing on the tour. There was kind of this whole period where Murray was almost like the heir elect, who was going to be coming in. Yeah. So I think it's not necessarily kind of a strange situation. Normally there is a great British player coming up, I think it's a bit more unusual when we do have that lull. Bit surprising, obviously, that Kyle Edmund wasn't able to with all his injuries, unfortunately. Yeah. So he did make that semi-final, we should mention, in Australia. So let's just pray with this one that Draper's able to keep going, because, I mean, from the level that you've seen, Joel, can he win the title?
Ooh, that's going to be tough. I think the real acid test is going to be in the semi-finals against Jannik Sinner, because I think this is going to be his first proper test. I actually feel like he's been, tested he's not been tested, I think, so far.
Not lost a set. Yeah, not lost a set. Recovering from a set.
He's not even had to, face a test. So, I still think, with Jannik Sinner, he's going to need to find another level. But I do think that he's going to be able to handle the moment, handle the pressure, and hopefully he can just let his tennis do the talking. I mean, it's going to be a fantastic matchup. And I know we were talking and getting excited about, Draper versus Alcaraz in round 3, but I'd happily take a Draper Sinner. And who knows, this could be, his kind of introduction, I think, into that upper echelon of really good juniors who are playing lights out tennis on the tour at the very top of the rankings. And this could maybe be an opportunity to cement a new rivalry that maybe fans weren't necessarily thinking about 12-18 months ago, because they were all kind of focused in on Sinner Alcaraz.
Move over Holger Rune. We do have to also say, though, that we might talk about a new junior, but Jack Draper is about 3 months in age difference from Jannik Sinner. So isn't that just crazy when you think about how established Jannik Sinner is at the top of the game? And I mean, Jannik Sinner did come through what people were thinking might be the biggest match of the tournament, given the players who were still in. He took out Daniil Medvedev. That match, we'll talk about that now, Joel. It was a case where neither of them were playing that well in the first few sets. Talk us through what happened next. It was a bit of a yo-yo.
Yeah, very, very odd. 6-2, 1-6, 6-1 the first 3 sets, and then it was a little bit more competitive.
It's giving WTA, isn't it?
6-4. Yeah, I didn't want to say that, but as you have said it, I'm now going to be able to say it. But
love those score lines.
It felt like such a yo-yo score line, and Jannik Sinner is into the semi-finals. I mean, we'll talk about the match in a sec, Chris, but is Sinner now is he like the favorite? Is he the clear favorite left in the draw?
He has to be. He's done it before. This match, he played Not great tennis, but he did beat the number 5 seed, someone who really thought they could take home the title. I think he's got a point to prove after the doping situation that happened. I think he's really done a good job mentally to stay really focused on what he needs to do here. And you'd have thought that maybe he'd have had a few more demons to be dealing with than Alcaraz potentially in his lack of form, given the attention on him and the fact there is all this attention still on Jannik Sinner. And the more the tournament goes on, the more the doping attention will be there, because there are a lot of question marks that still exist for people. Now that some time has passed, people are deep diving into it. And I think it's not going to go away. And if he does win this slam, it's actually only going to create more questions, given the nature of this whole year and the fact that the suspensions didn't kick in the way people thought they would. So very impressive from a mentality perspective. But from a tennis perspective, I think Jack Draper's numbers, he was hitting winners for fun and not making many errors. This, another messy one, Joel.
Sinner was hitting unforced errors for fun. I mean, Medvedev was also hitting
he's
unforced errors for
pushing
fun.
similar numbers to Coco Gauff at 57 unforced errors.
Jannik Sinner, 38 unforced errors. That is also not Sinner-like numbers.
No.
Though I will say Sinner was impressive at the net. He won 28 of 33 points at the front of the court. So yeah, maybe that was a bit of a strategy.
Was that the tactic, do you think, that got him through the match?
I'm envisaging it now. I'm imagining Daniil Medvedev was 6 feet behind the baseline.
He's in the stands.
Returning to the set. Might as well have been in the stands. So certainly coming to the net was a strategy that made sense, and it paid off for Jannik Sinner. But yeah, still quite a scratchy, ugly sort of match. Why do you think that is? Why was this match so yo-yo? Because I feel like we expected it to be a lot closer from the get-go, and that just didn't materialize until the fourth set.
We're seeing a lot of this US Open where the matches aren't quite hitting the heights from a play perspective. I think it's because they've actually sped up the court slightly. There's a lot of talk about this from the tournament director. They wanted to be mid-fast, but actually the number in terms of the speed rating of it is well into the 40s. So it's a scale up to 50. So a clay court would be somewhere in the 20s, could be high 20s if it's a particularly fast clay court. So it's a very quick court. So with these sorts of courts, you're able to get more momentum changes, and also you get less time on the ball. So it's a bit less in terms of the Wimbledon side of things, where you get harder to break players. In this one, it's actually harder to time the ball, I think, and harder to kind of stop the ball from flying long. So that might be why. But at the same time, it does mean you get some fantastic winners. And these matches, although they are going quite long, we're not getting necessarily all of them going, to, I don't know, 6 hours. Just Dan Evans is going that long. But I mean, you don't have to play well to win. And I think we've seen that kind of across both of the quarterfinals that happened kind of late night as well.
Yeah, definitely. And for Jannik Sinner, he has now reached the semi-finals of all the Grand Slams. He's one of 4 active players to do this, and I'm using active in the loosest sense, because he joins Novak Djokovic, Rafael Nadal, and Marin Cilic,
right?
Who, as I say, active player in that list. So yeah, a very good performance from him. I mean, he's 53-5 on the season in terms of his win-loss record.
Yeah.
That is, not even thought about just how good that is at such a young age. But yeah, certainly very exciting to look forward to Sinner versus Draper. We're going to be previewing that at the end in our predictions. But let's move on to the women's quarterfinals. Karolina Muchova and Jessica Pegula were our victors on day 10. They have set up a tantalizing semi-final clash. Now, the way they have done that, let's start in the day session. Karolina Muchova 6-1, 6-4 against Haddad Maia, 1 hour, 25 minutes. Chris, is it fair to say I feel like 1 hour and 10 of those minutes was Karolina Muchova off the court with stomach issues?
Yes, I've not seen this before, really. I think she was
apologetic very much about it.
She was.
What can you do? When you got to go, you got to go.
I guess I don't really know how it works and what the rules are, because I guess if you are unwell, I guess she had a time limit. She had to run there, run back. And thankfully, there wasn't a toilet that was too far away from the court as well. So
No.
very unusual because you don't expect when you see that sort of scoreline, you think, wow, she played so well. She blew
Mm.
off, the number 22, blew her off the court. When actually she actually blew herself off the court, had to run off court and run back on court. So none of them were mid rally though, Joel. She didn't have to like hit a shot,
No.
run back.
I was sort of maybe anticipating it at one point.
Yeah, exactly. But we won't talk too much about it. She didn't want to talk about the embarrassing nature
No.
of that. But I mean, testament to her that she was able to get it done despite that. And maybe it did sort of upset the rhythm a little bit of Haddad Maia because you are sort of then thinking, if I hang in here, maybe it could go my way. But still, I mean, fantastic to see her back in the semi-finals. She hasn't won a match at the slams coming into this. The last time that happened was, I believe, Jennifer Brady, who then had
Wow.
that standout run to the semi-finals. So I think that's quite interesting. Also, when you look at the year that she's had, it's almost similar to the Zverev story, where he had that terrible injury in the
Very
semi-finals
true.
of the French Open, and then a year later he made it back to the semi-finals. So very, very impressive. And I think we can all say that we're so pleased that she's back at the top of the game because we were kind of denied that because she really was coming into peak form and challenging for majors, and then it didn't quite pan out because she had one of the worst injuries of her life. So it is brilliant to see her back in the semis.
And Chris, you went on the pod when I asked him about this, and I don't know if you heard, I had to break out the swear jar for talking about the big three, and I just wanted to ask you as a WTA stan, if Karolina Muchova was fully fit or had a fully fit season, do you think we would be talking about her in the context of, as I say, a big three with Swiatek, Sabalenka, Rybakina as well? Do you think that's the level that she can play at, or do you still think she's got a point to prove?
I think everyone who follows tennis will know how good she is. She can do everything, and I'm not sure that there are players who have that level of variety. She's almost Ash Barty-like in that way. Great serve, great off the ground, great shot making. She throws in the slice. So I think she definitely has top three potential. She should have beaten Iga in that French Open final. I do believe that, but she also shouldn't have won the semi-final against Sabalenka. So she's been so close to a slam before. I wouldn't be surprised if she did win. I really wouldn't, because the game is there. It's more like, can she produce that and stay fit and healthy at the same time?
Yeah.
And
that's always the question with Muchova.
It is always the question, and you just hope you hope that we can see her have a full season, because she's not saying she's getting on, but she does need a really good season next year, and maybe
she needs a string of matches. She needs a string of tournaments. It's very. I mean, as I say, to her achievements, it's incredible to think how stop-start this last 12 months have been, and for her to go on a run like this, that is very, very impressive. And she will face Jessica Pegula in the semi-finals, and Pegula JPEG defeated Iga Swiatek 6-2, 6-4 to make her first ever Grand Slam semi-final. Chris, Iga Swiatek is out. JPEG is through. The summer of JPEG continues. The summer of American success continues as well. They've got 4 players left across the men and women's draws in the semi-finals. Jessica Pegula, were you expecting, regardless of how well Jessica Pegula has been playing across the summer, were you expecting to wake up to this result and it to be such a kind of routine, formality-like scoreline?
I mean, I wasn't expecting it to be this one-sided, especially sort of that first set. Jessie's been playing great tennis, but Iga's also been playing great tennis. It felt like she was playing herself into the match really well. Not into the match, into the tournament for Iga. So when you look at how emphatic her victories have also been coming into this, after a bit of a tricky sort of first encounter, you do have to think that this was more one-sided than you would have expected. But having said that, the head-to-head on hard court, Iga is not the same as if you play her on a clay court, for sure. And if you play her outside of the slams. So is this that surprising? I was going to ask you, do you feel like this is an upset in many ways? Iga's not been past, I think, the round, the quarterfinal since she won the title here. And she's not been past the quarterfinal, a major outside of Roland Garros since winning that title in 2022. So it's hard to tell because also there was the big thing of Pegula of breaking that semi-final duck as well. So lots at work here.
I think, to me that is that's so great for her. We talked about Rublev still not been able to do that. Fritz has been able to do that. He broke it in the men's section. So following up from that for Jessica Pegula is fantastic. I guess from her form point of view, it's not as surprising. And I think also if you look at her head-to-head and matchups against kind of Swiatek, like she has victories over Swiatek in the past. And so she's going to have experiences to pull upon to get the job done. And I think you do look at Swiatek and think that it is a kind of like either I'm going to win it or I'm going to go out before the semi-finals. So there was a little bit of a hoodoo there, I think. So that works in the favor of Jessica Pegula, and I think she is playing great tennis at the moment. I think I watched the highlights of the match against Swiatek. I thought she was returning very, very well. I thought her depth on the court, her rally shot was very close to the baseline, and it kept Swiatek kind of pinned towards the back and
big hitting.
Yeah, very big hitting.
And I think that was probably one of the big things is that Jessie is able to impose her game on you, especially when you're not serving well. That first set, I think Iga only made 36% of first serves, and quite a lot of errors on the baseline. So it does feel like the match kind of got away.
Channeling her inner Coco Gauff.
Yeah, it does. I think, again, very surprising numbers from the world number one, but she did say afterwards that she's won tournaments serving badly. So she wasn't too concerned at that point. And I think with Jessie actually getting it done would be the tough point, because if they did go to a third set, I think we all would think that potentially Iga Swiatek would have won that. But I mean, Pegula is so good when she wins the first set. She barely ever loses when she does get that first set done. So, I mean, great.
She's so mentally strong, isn't she? She just continues and you don't necessarily associate her with just having lapses of concentration.
No, doesn't overthink either.
No, doesn't overthink. Keeps it very simple. And into a semi-final. Chris, just on Iga Swiatek, you mentioned that she hasn't been past the quarterfinal of a Grand Slam, not Roland Garros or the French Open, since winning the US Open in 2022. Why do you think that is? And should we be worried? I feel like we're getting to a point where I know she's got that solitary victory outside of clay on Harder in New York City, in, as I say, in 2022. But at the moment, I don't know. I don't want to say Iga Swiatek's just a French Open merchant, and that's but certainly if you look at the timeline, there is a case to say that. There is.
It's undeniable, and if you look at the results,
it's not even reached semi-final or final of another, as I say, Grand Slam.
Yeah, we're talking about Jannik Sinner completing the semi-final set. Iga has done it at 3 of the slams. The one that she hasn't done it at is Wimbledon. She's 1 round off there. It's very strange because I feel like she's more dominant now outside of Grand Slams than she was when she won 2 Grand Slam titles and made the semi-finals in Australia in 2022. So that is something that's quite confusing, especially when you look at, we also had another sort of the 5th major in the Olympics this year, and she came up short against Wimbledon as well. So I think that maybe the record...
What's going on?
The record she should be chasing are the slams. And I think putting in the time, whether it is to improve your grass court game or to improve the other aspects of your game when it comes to the lead up to some of these bigger tournaments. She talked about it before, not always having the best lead up to tournaments like Wimbledon. I think sometimes it is coming off the slam win that can be a problem. So that slam, I think, kind of makes sense. Australia is a big question mark for me because I do think she plays well down there. So you can have some upsets. Rybakina is that's a tough loss in the round 4 in 2023. Noskova was a big upset. Putintseva was a big upset. And there's no real shame in losing to Jessie Pegula, who's playing well. So, you can't win everything. I think she will win Australia for sure. I think the bigger question mark is around Wimbledon, But I'd like to see more of her ranking points coming from slams than coming from the 1000s.
What do you think, just before we move on to looking at the semi-finals, what do you think she will be thinking about her 2024 season? Because round 3 at the Australian Open, champion French Open, round 3 at Wimbledon, and then quarterfinal at the US Open. I think that's I think that's I think that's below satisfactory if I'm Iga Swiatek.
Yeah, I do think so. And she was 1 point away from not getting the French Open. You know, if Naomi Osaka had taken her out in that second round, she would have had third round, second round, third round, quarterfinal. So obviously that's not the case, and you don't know what could have happened at other slams had she have gone out early. Maybe she'd have won Wimbledon, but she's definitely beatable. And I think maybe the rest of the field is really up for the challenge. If I was Iga Swiatek, she wants to be the greatest of all time, I'm sure, very similar to Carlos Alcaraz in that respect. She also doesn't necessarily want to be, you know, a clay court specialist to be considered like that. And she has won more matches on hard courts than anyone else this year, just not at the times when you really want to win them. So I think she will be channeling that into next year. And I really wouldn't be surprised if she was able to win a slam outside of Roland Garros next year.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think she needs to look at next season and be like, how do I get my game up on the other court surfaces and make it leveled out with how I perform on clay? Because there is a bit of a gap, a bit of a disparity at the moment. But let's move on and look at the semi-finals and the matchups that we do have across the men and women's draws. Let's start with the ladies, because we've got ladies semi-finals day coming up at the US Open in New York. Emma Navarro, Aryna Sabalenka, Jessica Pegula, Karolina Muchova. Right. Where are we looking at? We've got 2 Americans. We've got the prospect of a battle of the
billionaire daughters.
Battle of the billionaire daughters in the final. Do we think that's an actual possibility?
That's a very big question. I mean, it has to be because there are only 4 players left in the draw, Joel. But
very true. In
terms of who I think is going to win the semis, I think that Sabalenka will have enough firepower to get it done. I do think it could go to 3. It could get a bit messy. I'm not sure it's going to be the cleanest of tennis. Emma Navarro hasn't been playing the cleanest of tennis, but I do think that the experience of being at this level previously for Sabalenka and not getting it last year, she does seem a bit laser focused. So I think
now Swiatek's out as well.
Exactly. So I do think that it could be a Sabalenka Pegula or a Sabalenka Muchova final. I wouldn't be surprised by that, but I would be surprised if it was an Emma Navarro final.
Yeah, it feels like, as I say, it's now with Swiatek out, it feels like it's Sabalenka's to lose, and I think she'll be looking at the rest of the draw thinking, obviously she can't underestimate or get complacent or anything, but certainly she's in that Jannik Sinner position, I think, of looking at the rest of the field that's left and thinking there shouldn't be anything here to frighten me, and I should be feeling confident about my chances of adding a US Open title to my trophy cabinet.
It would be very interesting, wouldn't it, if Sabalenka ended the year on 2 slams and Iga on 1? That would be surely a form of motivation for Swiatek. In terms of the Pegula-Muchova clash, they played recently, actually. I was quite surprised that they played so recently. They played it in Cincinnati, and that was a really tight
3 sets.
5-7, 6-4, 6-2 to Pegula. So that's very much a level playing field, as long as Muchova is feeling better, I think. She hasn't got much time to recover from a tummy bug. So I'd have to say, at the moment, Pegula, for me, has the edge because of the fact that Muchova might not be physically feeling as well as she has done previously and might not be able to train and practice as much in the lead up.
Okay, well, let's look at some predictions for the men now. Sinner, Draper, Fritz, Tiafoe. They've got a little bit more of a recovery time. We'll see these matches on Friday, UK Friday night, Friday, Saturday morning, possibly, depending on how late things go. As I say, Sinner, Draper, Fritz, Tiafoe. Let's start with Fritz, Tiafoe, the All-American matchup. What are you thinking about this one? Because as I say earlier, Fritz 6-1 in the head-to-head.
It's going to have an impact for sure. And the fact that Fritz did beat the top seed in the half that remained. That's going to be a big form of confidence for him. I've said it. I feel like I've said it so much this podcast, but it's a belief game, and I really think that the people who have it in their eyes at the moment are Taylor Fritz and Jack Draper.
Okay.
I don't necessarily know that will translate into a win for Jack because Jannik Sinner's level is so high. But for Fritz, I do think we'll see him in the final. There might be 4 sets. Probably is 4 sets because it is such a big deal getting over the line. He does get a bit nervous in some of those moments, which is fair, but so does Francis Tiafoe. So what are you calling?
I'm gonna go with Fritz. I think Fritz will over best of 5 ultimately get the job done. I do think. Sinner Draper is a bit trickier.
What's the head-to-head?
I'm looking it up at at the moment.
I can tell you it's 1-0 Jack Draper.
Wow, it is 1-0 Jack Draper.
They played at
Queen's Club
a few years ago. And that was a big upset. That was quite a lot of fun, actually. So
yeah.
How much do you read into that? 2021, wasn't it?
Yeah, not a lot. Grass court as well. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think you've got to go with Jannik Sinner. He's been the form player. He's been here, done that before. He's going to feel motivated. I mean, they're both going to feel motivated, but I feel like the Draper's going to need to go up a level or two to get the upset.
I'm going to go out there and just say the Jack Draper that I saw, I think he can definitely make it competitive. And if he is able to really take the ball away, take the ball on and kind of take the time away from Jannik Sinner, that's a very different prospect to a Medvedev. But it has to be plan A, and plan A has to be working for Jack Draper to get that result. For Sinner, he's obviously the favorite going into that. Jack's got absolutely nothing to lose, and people can be so dangerous in those moments. So I think for me, I'm trying to flip a coin as to which way I'm going to go. I believe Jack can do it, but I do think in those key moments, Jannik Sinner might be a bit too rock solid.
Right. Okay. I'm going to give you the matchup now. I want winner and number of sets.
Okay.
And we're going to end the episode there. Right. Navarro, Sabalenka.
Sabalenka 2.
Sabalenka 2. Jessica Pegula, Karolina Muchova.
Pegula in 3.
Muchova in 2.
Okay.
Fritz, Tiafoe.
I'll go Fritz in 4.
Fritz?
Fritz? You can't go for both of them.
I go Fritz in 3. God, that's a tongue twister.
Fritz in 3.
In 3. Sinner Draper, the big one.
I think it might be Sinner in 5. I think it's really going to be an epic.
Wow, okay. I'm going to go Sinner in 4. I think that sounds about right. But I think Jack Draper, he's gonna showcase what he's all about.
I could also see Jack in 3. I have no idea.
Going down in a blaze of glory.
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, we've not spoken about Emma Raducanu and the sort of fairy tale that was a few years ago. And is Jack Draper on a similar fairy tale? I mean, there are some parallels there. Not dropped to Jack Draper, yes, didn't come through qualifying, but both not dropped a set all the way through.
Well, the Americans, I mean, Jessica Pegula hasn't dropped a set yet either, but when the Brits make it to a semi-final,
well,
we certainly
we live in hope. We certainly live in hope, but we will have to see. Ladies semi-finals coming up today, men's semi-finals tomorrow, but we're going to end our quarterfinals catch up there. Listeners, I hope you've enjoyed our latest episode of the Tennis Weekly podcast. Remember to subscribe to us to stay up to date on all the action to come as we head into finals weekend at Flushing Meadows. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and all major podcasting platforms out there. And if you like what you're hearing, then make sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Plus, like and subscribe to us on YouTube and hit that notification bell.
You can also watch this as a video episode on YouTube, as well as follow us on social media and email the show. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X, and the handle for all of those is Tennis Weekly Pod. We have an Etsy sale on at the moment. We have 25% off our merch, and that's at etsy.com/shop/Tennis Weekly Podcast. You can email us, tennisweeklypod@gmail.com, or do check out our website, tennisweekly.co.uk.
And we will be back on Saturday morning at Tennis Weekly HQ for our semi-finals catch-up of the US Open, brought to you by Fungiball. So I hope you can join us for that. But in the meantime, it's goodbye from Chris.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. We'll see you again soon.